Good morning, philosophers. I hope you're well today. Today we begin the next book in the works of Plato. This is called Apology. This might be one of my least favorite to read, not because it's boring, but because it tells the story this is Plato telling the story of Socrates' murder by the state for speaking truth that they didn't like, which relates to my life in a lot of ways. This is what I do on this channel, is what I try and do in life, in my relationships, and oftentimes that puts me in more danger than I would otherwise be. Like, for example, today, I have to go confront the local road pirates over some death threats they've been giving me over a victimless crime. So, let's get into it. Apology. This work is universally known as Plato's Apology of Socrates, in deference to the word apologia that stands in its Greek title. Actually, the word means not an apology, but a defense speech in a legal proceeding, and that is what we get, certainly. Socrates does not apologize for anything. This is not really a dialogue, except for an interlude when he engages one of his accusers in the sort of question and answer discussion characteristic of Plato's Socratic dialogues. We see Socrates delivering a speech before his jury of 501 fellow male Athenians. At the age of 70, he had been indicted for breaking the law against impiety, for offending the Olympian gods, Zeus, Apollo, and the rest, recognized in the city's festivals and other official activities. The basis of the charge, such as it was, lay in the way that for many years Socrates had been carrying on his philosophical work in Athens. It has often been thought that the real basis for it lay in guilt by association. Several of Socrates' known associates had been prominent malfeasants in Athens' defeat in the Peloponnesian War, only a few years earlier, and the oligarch reign of terror that followed. But an amnesty had forbidden suits based on political offenses during that time. However much those associations may have been in the minds of his accusers and his jurors too, Plato makes him respond sincerely to the charges as lodged. After all, these would be the ultimate basis on which he should or should not be found guilty of anything. So he takes the occasion to explain and defend his devotion to philosophy, and the particular ways he has pursued that in discussions with select young men and with people prominent in the city. Discussions like those we see in Plato's other Socratic works. He argues that, so far from offending the gods through his philosophizing or showing disbelief in them, he has piously followed their lead, particularly that of Apollo, through his oracle at Delphi, in making himself as good a person as he can and encouraging, even goading others to do the same. The gods want more than anything else that we shall be good, and goodness depends principally on the quality of our understanding of what to care about and how to believe in our lives. Philosophy through Socratic discussion is the pursuit of that understanding. This is, of course, no record of the actual defense Socrates mounted at his trial in 399 BC, but a composition of Plato's own. We have no way of knowing how closely, if at all, it conforms to Socrates' real speech. In it, Plato gives us the best, most serious response to the charges that, on his own knowledge of Socrates was entitled to give. Was Socrates nonetheless guilty as charged? In deciding this, readers should notice that, however sincere, pages sticking together. However sincere Plato's Socrates may be in claiming a pious motivation for his philosophical work, he does set up human reason in his own person as the final arbiter of what is right and wrong, and so of what the gods want us to do. He interprets Apollo through his oracle at Delphi to have told him to do that. As we see also from Euthyphro, he has no truck with the authority of myths or ancient poets or religious tradition and divination to tell us what to think about the gods and their commands or wishes as regards to ourselves. In democratic Athens, juries were randomly selected subsets, representatives of the whole people. Hence, as Socrates makes clear, he is addressing the democratic people of Athens. And when the jury find him guilty and condemn him to death, they act as and for the Athenian people. Did Socrates bring on his own condemnation, whether wittingly or not, by refusing to say the sorts of things and to comport himself in the sort of way that would have won his acquittal? Perhaps. True to his philosophical calling, he requires that the Athenians think honestly and dispassionately, and decide the truth of the charges by reasoning from the facts as they actually were. This was his final challenge to them, to care more for their souls, their minds, their power of reason, than for their peace and comfort, undisturbed by the likes of him. Seen in that light, as Plato wants us to see it, the failure was theirs. All right, and so we begin. I do not know, men of Athens, how my accusers affected you. As for me, I was almost carried away in spite of myself, so persuasively did they speak. And yet hardly anything of what they said is true. Of the many lies they told, one in particular surprised me, namely that you should be careful not to be deceived by an accomplished speaker like me. That they were not ashamed to be immediately proved wrong by the facts, when I show myself not to be an accomplished speaker at all. That I thought was most shameless on their part, unless indeed they call me an accomplished speaker, the man who speaks the truth. If they mean that, I would agree that I am an orator, but not after their manner, for indeed, as I say, practically nothing they said was true. From me you will hear the whole truth, though not by Zeus, gentlemen, expressed in embroidered and stylized phrases like theirs, but things spoken at random and expressed in the first words that come to mind. For I put my trust in the justice of what I say, and let none of you expect anything else. It would not be fitting at my age, as it might be for a young man to toy with words when I appear before you. One thing I do ask and beg of you, gentlemen, if you hear me making my defense in the same kind of language as I am accused to use in the marketplace by the bankers' tables, where many of you have heard me, and elsewhere, do not be surprised or create a disturbance on that account. The position is this. This is my first appearance in a law court, at the age of 70. I am therefore simply a stranger to the manner of speaking here. Just as if I were really a stranger, you would certainly excuse me if I spoke in that dialect and manner in which I had been brought up. So too my present request seems a just one, for you to pay no attention to my manner of speech, be it better or worse, but to concentrate your attention on whether what I say is just or not. For the excellence of a judge lies in this, as that of a speaker lies in telling the truth. It is right for me, gentlemen, to defend myself first against the first lying accusations made against me and my first accusers, and then against the later accusations and the later accusers. There have been many who have accused me to you for many years now, and none of their accusations are true. These I fear much more than I fear Anytus? Greek names, man. These I fear much more than I fear Anytus and his friends, though they too are formidable. These earlier ones, however, are more so, gentlemen. They got hold of most of you from childhood, persuaded you, and accused me quite falsely, saying that there is a man called Socrates, a wise man, a student of all things in the sky and below the earth, who makes the worst argument the stronger. Those who spread that rumor, gentlemen, are my dangerous accusers, for their hearers believe that those who study these things do not even believe in the gods. Moreover, these accusers are numerous and have been at it a long time. Also, they spoke to you at an age when you would most readily believe them, some of you being children and adolescents, and they won their case by default, as there was no defense. What is most absurd in all this is that one cannot even know or mention their names unless one of them is a writer of comedies. Those who maliciously and slanderously persuaded you, who also, when persuaded themselves, then persuaded others. All those are most difficult to deal with. One cannot bring one of them into court or refute him. One must simply fight with the shadows, as it were, in making one's defense, and cross-examine when no one answers. I want you to realize, too, that my accusers are of two kinds. Those who have accused me recently, and the old ones I mention, and to think that I must first defend myself against the latter, for you have also heard their accusations first, and to a much greater extent than the more recent. Very well then, men of Athens, I must surely defend myself and attempt to uproot from your minds in so short a time the slander that has resided there so long. I wish this may happen. If it is in any way better for you and me, and that my defense may be successful, but I think this is very difficult, and I'm fully aware of how difficult it is. Even so, let the matter proceed as the god may wish, but I must obey the law and make my defense. Let us then take up the case from its beginning. What is the accusation from which arose the slander in which Meletus trusted when he wrote out the charge against me? What did they say when they slandered me? I must, as if they were my actual prosecutors, read the affidavit they would have sworn. It goes something like this. Socrates is guilty of wrongdoing in that he busies himself studying things in the sky and below the earth. He makes the worse into the stronger argument, and he teaches these same things to others. You have seen this yourself in the comedy of Aristophanes. A Socrates swinging about there, saying he was walking on air and talking a lot of other nonsense about things of which I know nothing at all. I do not speak in contempt of such knowledge if someone is wise in these things, lest Meletus bring more cases against me. But, gentlemen, I have no part in it, and on this point I call upon the majority of you as witnesses. I think it right that all those of you who have heard me conversing, and many of you have, should tell each other if any one of you has ever heard me discussing such subjects to any extent at all. From this you will learn that the other things said about me by the majority are of the same kind. Not one of them is true. And if you have heard from anyone that I undertake to teach people and charge a fee for it, that is not true either. Yet I think it a fine thing to be able to teach people, as Gorgias of okay, it's a long name, and Prodicius of oh my god. Gorgias of Leontinidos, and Prodisus of Ceos, and Hippias of Elis. Whew. Good morning. Each of these men can go to any city and persuade the young, who can keep company with any one of their own fellow citizens they want without paying. To leave the company of these, to join with themselves, pay them a fee, and be grateful to them besides. Indeed, I learned that there is another wise man from Paros who is visiting us, for I met a man who has spent more money on sophists than everybody else put together, Callias, the son of Hipponicus. So I asked him, he has 2 sons. Callias, I said, if your sons were colts or calves, we could find and engage a supervisor for them, who would make them excel in their proper qualities, some horse breeder or farmer. Now, since they are men, whom do you have in mind to supervise them? Who is an expert in this kind of excellence, the human and social kind? I think you must have given thought to this since you have sons. Is there such a person? I asked, or is there not? Certainly there is, he said. Who is he? I asked. What is his name? Where is he from? And what is his fee? His name, Socrates, is Evenus. He comes from Paros, and his fee is 5 minas. I thought Evenus a happy man if he really possesses this art and teaches for so moderate a fee. Certainly I would pride and preen myself if I had this knowledge, but I do not have it, gentlemen. One of you might perhaps interrupt me and say, "But Socrates, what is your occupation? From where have these slanders come? For surely if you do not busy yourself with something out of the common, all these rumors and talk would not have arisen, unless you did something other than most people. Tell us what it is, that we may not speak inadvisedly about you." Anyone who says that seems to be right, and I will try to show you what has caused this reputation and slander. Listen then. Perhaps some of you will think I am jesting, but be sure that all that I shall say is true. What has caused my reputation is none other than a certain kind of excuse me. What has caused my reputation is none other than a certain kind of wisdom. What kind of wisdom? Human wisdom, perhaps. It may be that I really possess this, while those whom I mentioned just now are wise with a wisdom more than human, else I cannot explain it, for I certainly do not possess it, and whoever says I do is lying and speaks slander to me. Do not create a disturbance, gentlemen, even if you think I am boasting. For the story I shall tell does not originate with me, but I will refer you to a trustworthy source. I shall call upon the god at Delphi as witness to the existence and nature of my wisdom, if it be such. You know Charaphon? Let's go with Charaphon. You know Charaphon. He was my friend from youth, and the friend of most of you, as he shared your exile and your return. You surely know the kind of man he was, how impulsive in any course of action. He went to Delphi at one time and ventured to ask the oracle. As I say, gentlemen, do not create a disturbance. He asked if any man was wiser than I, and the Pythian replied that no one was wiser. Charaphon is dead, but his brother will testify to you about this. So Charaphon went to the oracle Delphi at one time, asked the oracle if any man was wiser than Socrates, and the oracle said no one was wiser. Interesting. Well, we will leave it there for today and continue the apology leading up to Socrates' murder. That's another thing that bugs me when I read these philosophy books is people that write them, the authors, the commentators, they always talk about Socrates being put to death, or his death sentence, or his killing by the Athenian people. It was murder. Pretty freaking clear. It was murder. So I will be calling it murder for the remainder of this reading. Let's see. So today is my toughest day this week. I have to go and deal with the local road pirates to try and clear some warrants for my arrest over peaceful behavior that they've deemed impious. This reading is so timely for me, and that's how that's how it usually works when you do these readings. There's something in them that links to your current life and makes them like real time. Another reason why it's important to do this stuff. Another reason why I do this stuff. Anyway, I have put what I'm going to do today off for several years, and it's part of the list of things that I've been procrastinating on, and procrastination is a habit that I'm currently in the process of murdering as definitively as they murdered Socrates. So the theme for today is, because there's a strong motivation to do any of the other very much more productive things that I have on my list of things to do than go deal with these assholes. But the theme for me today is zero procrastination. I will not procrastinate on a single thing that I have on my list today. I will do the list until it is done. And then I will relax and probably play some video games. All right, guys. I hope you have a great day.